We're back and we're continuing the UFC Vegas 102 fight card. Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues. Let's get right into it. But remember, this Saturday we are doing the live watch party at, I do believe it's 8:50 p.m. we are starting on the channel. So be there in UK time, by the way. And we're going to live stream the watch party for this fight card. Now let's get right into today's video. We have Ismael Bonfim versus Nazim Sadykhov. Sadykhov is 9-1-1. His country is Russia, stands at 5 foot 10 inches tall. He weighed at 169 pounds 80 in his last weigh-in, has a reach of 69 inches and a leg reach of 41 inches. While Ismael Bonfim, on the other hand, has a record of 20-4. His country is Brazil. He stands at 5 foot 8 inches tall. He weighed in at 169 pounds 80 in his last weigh-in, has a reach of 71.5 inches and a leg reach of 35 inches. There's quite a difference when it comes to leg reach. There is a bit of a difference there. It's 6 inches difference. Then you've got the 2.5 inch reach advantage for Ismael, not a massive difference, and then you have a 2 inch height advantage for Sadykhov. Also, if we look at this, 20-4 to a 9-1-1. Now, Ismael Bonfim has much more experience coming in this fight, so he could have seen a lot of things that Nazim's going to throw at him, but who knows? Just based off these first stats, what I'd say, Ismael Bonfim, if he wants to get on the inside, he could very easily cut down that range. Getting the takedowns might be a little bit more difficult with a taller opponent. If you're taller, you're going to find it a little bit easier to get them underhooks and to take control there. Also, when you're a taller opponent, you have a little bit more of that fear factor, because not that Ismael is going to fear you because you're taller, but because you are taller, you do have a slight advantage over him, because sometimes fighters do struggle with fighters that tower over them. And if Ismael doesn't know that he has the longer reach going into this, and he knows that Nazim is taller, which I do believe you'd know his stats by now, but if you didn't know that and you see Nazim for the first time and he's taller, and you might think, oh, he's got the longer reach. Just because he's taller doesn't mean he's got the longer reach, proven here. But the reach isn't really going to benefit anyone too much in this fight, apart from Ismael if he can use it to an advantage, but it's too close to use. The leg reach goes in Nazim's favor, so if Nazim does feel that he's in danger in close range, he can get it back. Or if he needs a starter, instead of using his jab, he can throw out a leg kick instead, or just a kick in general. But let's move on to win buys to see how they've got it done in their previous fights. With Ismael having a 45% KO TKO, 20% submission, 35% decision with an average fight time sitting at 11 minutes and a knockdown average of 1. While Nazim, on the other hand, had a 67% KO TKO, 22% submission, 11% decision, and an average fight time of 11 minutes and a knockdown average of 1 as well. We're going to look at one more stat before we come off of this. So Ismael Bonfim, as we know, 20-4. Let's see where his most common wins are coming by. His most common wins are coming by submissions. He's lost by submissions 4 times in the first round. Is that the only ways he's lost? I don't know, because it says here he has Benoit Saint-Denis, Renato Moicano, Jefferson Lucas, Adriano Moraes. Doesn't have an organization. Their organizations, mainly the UFC ones, what we want to look at, which will be Benoit and, oh wow, Renato Moicano didn't even submit him in UFC, submitted in a different organization. Going off of this, a weakness for Ismael is getting submitted, but his most common wins are by KO or TKO. But let's move on to Nazim Sadykhov right now. As we know, Nazim is 9-1-1. Let's see where his loss is coming in. It's coming in by submission as well, so they both have weaknesses in their grappling. Who submitted him? Juan Galaza. Rear naked choke 2018, not in the UFC. Okay, so now we're going to check the next thing, which is rear naked choke. Okay, so he gets submissions, doctor stoppage, knockouts. That's contender series. We really want to be looking at these strictly, which should be these 3. A draw, rear naked choke, and stoppage by cut. Okay, and that one, right hook. So it's a knockout, submission, doctor's decision, but it was a draw. Okay, so based off of these, they both have weaknesses in the grappling. How do I think they both have weaknesses in their grappling, but I feel like if Ismael was to get the takedown, he'd do a little bit better, but there's not too much scoff here. We can tell that they both get knockouts. That's mainly their source of winnings, but I feel like Nazim is a lot more dangerous on the feet than Ismael is, but Ismael has that experience, so maybe Nazim only is dangerous because his record is so short. If he had a bigger record, if he had the same record, would his knockouts be that similar, or would it be less? Again, we can't judge this just because they have knockouts or they have submissions. Ismael might have very good defense. Now, that's where significant strikes will come in, because you'll find the defense, and then grappling will come in because you'll find the grappling defense. But basing off of these stats right now, Nazim is the dangerous fighter on the feet, and they're both dangerous in the ground because they both lack the ability of defense when submissions are coming. Now, I'm not saying, oh, they 100% cannot defend it. They can. There's proof that they can, but most times they've struggled and been submitted. Let's move on to significant strikes to see how they performed on the feet in their previous fight. With Ismael Bonfim having an average of 6 punches landed per minute, 54% significant strikes, an average of 3 punches absorbed per minute with a defense of 70%, while Nazim Sadykhov, on the other hand, had an average of 5 punches landed per minute, 48% significant strikes, an average of 6 punches absorbed per minute with a defense of 48%. And that kind of cracks open a game plan here. Ismael Bonfim not only landed 6 punches, his significant strikes was over half. He absorbed only 3 punches with a defense of 70%, which is very impressive. I think that's the most impressive defense that I've seen in the striking ever when I've looked at these stats. I know people are like, you don't study what you're doing. I'm studying it right now, so shut the fuck up and listen. Nazim landed fairly well. Significant strikes weren't amazing, almost half, but almost isn't half, so it's not good enough. Absorbed 6 punches, that's too high, and defense was very poor. Someone like Ismael would love this because he knows he can output and land them strikes. He knows he can land high significant strikes percentage, and he can defend. Nazim is going to struggle on the feet. Now, will the height take a factor into this? Will Ismael be a little bit more hesitant because of the height? Will Nazim be a bit more hesitant because of the reach? I don't think the reach is really going to be a key factor in this, but we could find out. I feel like it's such a tough fight for Nazim. He's 9-1-1. While Ismael is 20-4. He has 4 losses. Yes, Nazim only has 1 loss. If you're looking at it on an odds factor, you've got a choice. You either go with the guy with the highest record, or you go with the guy who hardly ever loses. You'd probably go with the guy who hardly ever loses, because Ismael Bonfim, we've seen he has weaknesses in his game. Now we know Nazim has weaknesses in his game, but Nazim's only weakness is getting submitted, while Ismael's weakness doesn't mean submitted. When we move on to the grappling stats, it will kind of lead into who I think should grapple and who I think would win if it does go into a grappling match. So let's move on to that very quickly. With Nazim Sadykhov having an average of 2 takedowns, 62% takedown accuracy, 75% takedown defense with a submission average of 0, while Ismael Bonfim, on the other hand, had an average of 1 takedown, 33% takedown accuracy, 76% takedown defense, and a submission average of 0. Not only was Ismael's submission average 0, it was completely 0. Yes, Nazim's was 0 because if you go off of averages, 5 and above would be 1, 4 and below would be 0. Nazim actually attempted submissions while Ismael didn't attempt any. Another thing, takedown defense, Ismael had a 1% better. Does that matter in this fight? I think it will. I think this takedown defense will matter in this fight between the 2 fighters. Who do I think it will benefit more? If I'm being honest, Ismael should try and avoid the grappling and should use his takedown defense, but I think Nazim would benefit better. Takedown accuracy, right? Look at the averages. Takedown average, Nazim got 2. Ismael got 1. With the takedown accuracy, Nazim had a 62% takedown defense, while Ismael only had a 33%. Poor. It's poor from him. I would give it to Nazim. Nazim should go for them takedowns. Try and submit Ismael. Ismael, keep it on the feet. You don't have a massive reach advantage, but use that reach advantage to your advantage and try and knock him out. How do I think this fight plays out? If it stays on the feet, I think Ismael either wins by decision or gets a knockout. Nazim, I think he can get the knockout. I think he has the power there. But if he doesn't get that knockout, I'd say get it down, go for a submission, or get a decision with control time, and land some significant strikes on the feet. I think it's tougher for Ismael because Nazim's taller, so the grappling comes a little bit easier. Nazim might be able to use his height to his advantage by keeping him not at bay with a jab, but also Nazim isn't throwing straight or up, he's throwing down. Gravity goes down. If you throw downward shots, not completely straight down shots, if you throw, that's why elbows and that are so dangerous, is when they're coming down, they're so dangerous. So Nazim has that slight angle advantage where he can throw down, which means he can land more significant strikes. It's going to be a tough fight for Ismael because Nazim has a very high knockout percentage. So does Ismael, but look at the difference. And that's because of the smaller record. But I think Nazim could possibly win this and should possibly win this and move up to 10-1. Well, Ismael, I think he's got a lot of hard factors coming into this, but I think he does get outbeat by Nazim. But that's just my thoughts and my opinions and my predictions. What do you guys think? Who do you think wins that? How do you think win? Apart from that, I'll catch you in a bit. Take care and peace.